this is Willie. Got an old Craftsman. Gonna get serviced today. Didn't exactly come cheap. I had to buy 2 tractors in order to get this one together because one had a good seat on it. This did run when I got it. I had to repair a few things, such as it needed the cover for the air filter, which I put on. I got it already had the top, it's just the piece that held the element in place was missing. Needed a battery, needed a drive belt, different things like that. Get it all tied up. Got a friend that's been looking for a mower, so I got this one going. It runs good. I just drove it over here, so it shouldn't take too much choke to start it up. Runs good. Now, some of the problems with this is the wheels are towed out. If you steer to the right, it doesn't steer as far as it should. That's about as far as it goes. Should go quite a bit further. The brakes are almost bottomed out for the park brake, so that needs some adjustment. And the drive belt needs some adjustment, which is over here. There's a bolt in the slot here that can adjust the drive belt. I also have some pulleys making noise I got to replace. So, and the deck needs to be leveled out. That's pretty far out of whack. I believe I have a tool over here to adjust that somewhere. Let me get some tools together. We're going to do a video on fine adjustments on a 1980... what year's 1987 Craftsman GT18. This one has a shorter drive belt than most because the engine is actually sunk down in the frame a little bit. Some of them sit flat and have a longer belt. And the later years did not have the belt adjustments on the side for the drive belt. But the steering is still the same for quite a while. On these 86 up to 1990, the steering was pretty much the same, except they added some reinforcement to keep the quadrant gear from wobbling as much. Speaking of which, that has a jam nut under there, and I can't really get up into there, you tighten down to get rid of some of the play on that. So I'm going to continue on, set you guys up as I go. I got to pull this deck off in order to show you how to do the steering on it, so hang on. As for removing the deck, this is your height adjustment knob. You're going to want to turn that all the way down. And then you're going to want to drop your lift all the way down until it locks into that bottom position. That puts the deck on the ground. We're going to unhook the drive or the PTO belt. We're going to undo the pins from the back to the front. And when you're putting the deck back on, it's the opposite. You start from the front, work your way back, and then put the belt on. Pretty simple on this one. Usually you can just grab it and roll the belt. Comes off pretty easy. And we got some pins back here. Going back to the other side. This one you got to lift up a little bit while you're pulling the pin out. Then we will lift that up. Get that out of the way. We should be able to put this backwards and right on out. I think the wheel's stuck on the other side. Then we got 2 pins up in the front. One here. Putting these in is a bit of a pain because you can't get in there very easily, but it's possible because the pulley's in the way on this one. Just drive the tension pulleys hold you up on that one. This just comes off with 2 nuts and it slots in the back on the frame here. There's a little bit of a slot to hold that, but that can stay on. And it's that easy. Now this deck is actually in pretty good shape. These pins aren't too badly worn. And no rust holes in it. It's got some flaking rust on it from sitting, but no holes. Blades are like brand new. Sorry about the shadow cast on everything. It's actually in really nice shape for what it is. Nothing's loose. Nice and easy to clean these decks out if you want to clean them out every few hours of running it. So that's out of the way. Let me get the front end of this thing jacked up. Oh, and as for the belt, you can kind of reach in here and pop that off the pulley. Got the pulleys holding the belt a little bit. Oh, now I'm on the drain, the oil drain right there. Deck comes off really easy. So let me get this up in the air and we'll get started on the steering, so hang on. Okay, I got it up in the air and the first thing I noticed is this axle has quite a bit of play in it. So what I'm going to need to do to start with is loosen these 2 nuts on the front. I'm going to have to reach inside the frame from up here, put an open end, or maybe even down through here. Put an open end wrench on that, loosen that bolt up, and there's another bolt. Let me get the steering out of the way. Another bolt up in here. I need to be tightened up. I gotta clean a bunch of grass out with like a screwdriver or something. And it's also nice to see like a grease fitting here. I don't think I've seen grease fittings on these. I wonder if that was probably added after the fact, but this is actually nice and tight on this one. This doesn't wobble up and down too bad. A lot of the time this is where your stiff steering is tight at, is on this bushing here on these. So grease fitting is nice to see there. Quadrant's in nice shape. I'm not seeing any broken teeth. Here's that. Well, I'm trying to show you. Can I get you up through here? There it is. Here's that secondary jam nut that keeps that tight to keep this from wobbling too bad. This wobbles a lot. You can loosen that nut and adjust it and then put a jam nut on it to keep that from coming loose. This is actually pretty tight, so that's actually pretty nice. And even the steering gear is in nice shape on this one. So we're looking pretty good here so far. Looks like we might have a oil leak on the engine. Not too bad. It's probably the dipstick tube leaking. They're kind of famous for that. Or people will go to add oil and spill it over. Whatever. But not too bad. It's not excessively wet under here, just some residue. It's not like sticking to my fingers, so I'm not going to worry about it until once it starts dripping. I'd worry about it, but these engines are pretty simple. One thing I had also done on this when I got it is I pulled the hood off and these side panels and blew all the junk out of the blower shroud, which is pretty simple. You got 2 7/16 on this one. Some of them are 3/8, and then 2 5/16 bolts. Take the covers off and try not to bend the tabs down here. I don't even hook these tabs back up because they're a pain, but try not to bend those tabs for that one piece there when you're taking it apart. Saves you some aggravation. And these are the pulleys I'm going to need to change. That one right there is bad. Let me see if I can get this belt off. Should come off without too much trouble, I think. I might need to loosen up that nut in order to get that off. Change that. Anyway, this is a carriage head on the one side. This is just a 9/16 nut. It comes off easy. So let me figure out what the tools I'm going to need to get this axle tightened up, and we'll go from there. Hang on. I already have a open end wrench shoved down here. I don't know if you can see it in that little hole. That's my finger you can see there. But yeah, there's a open end wrench on the inside keeping that from moving. So I can loosen this up. And we'll go to the other side, loosen that up. A little bit finicky, but it can be done. And that can be done too. I need 2 hands for this, so I'll turn you guys on once I get that loosened up. By the way, the nuts and bolts on the front of these are 9/16, and on this one the axle nut and bolt is 1 inch on both sides. I have a short socket with a breaker bar on this side, and I have a deep socket with a 6-point on the other side. So I'm going to tighten this up because I'm going to need 2 hands to do this, but I thought I'd just show you the setup. And if this doesn't tighten it up and you still have a lot of play, you might need to go in there and take the axle out and adjust the bushing to shorten it up a little bit. But I'm pretty sure this will tighten this up. So let me see what happens, and I'll turn you guys back on. Okay, turns out I had to file down this bushing a little bit. Obviously you want to exercise some caution when you're running a die grinder, but I have a sanding disc on here, and I use the wrench to keep that from walking away on me. And then I would grind a little bit, spin it, grind it a little bit, spin it, grind it a little bit, which would keep that kind of square. Then I'll pop that in here, and then hold something with some kind of a somewhat flat edge on the back of it, like that, and I'd push it in and look for the closest point, because this is never going to be square, this axle. This is actually the closest point down the bottom, and it's only like 10 or 15 thousandths raised. That's about as low as I'm going to be able to go with that. And if you're not square on this, you can put that in a vise and use a flat surface file and a vise to square that up a little bit if you're not comfortable doing that. Or if you wanted to, you could take a caliper and then score a line all the way around it to give you something as a guide, different things like that. But for me, this isn't a big deal. I've done it a few times, and no matter what I do, I'm not going to get rid of all that play. So it's certainly going to be better than what it was. While I'm in here, I'm going to lube this up with some grease and stick her back together. Nut in the front, bolt head in the back. And you can put your hand down here and push this up in without too much trouble. But you do need a second hand to put the bolt in, so it's not too hard. So I'm going to continue on. Going to pop this belt off. See how many bad pulleys we have on here. That one's good. That one is definitely bad. That one's bad. And that one's bad. Got a pile here. Let's see what we got to work with. That looks about right. Feels good. That one looks about right. That one's a little bit noisy, but that's the only one I have in that size. We'll set that one aside. And that one looks looks about right. This one has a bigger flange on it. We'll have to see how that one goes. Hey, Katie Lynn. That one's got a good bearing on it. We'll see if we can't make that one work or not. I don't think I have any of these out in the shed. I'm going to go look. And this one's got a spacer like what I'm going to need for the bolt there. So let me pop those all off and we'll see what I can find for pulleys. Okay, finally got the pulleys changed. I had to go out in the shed and get these two off of another parts clutch assembly because I didn't have the right spacers I needed for the other pulleys, so that's all fixed. No more noise now. This one was, I took the seal out and greased it. These two I couldn't get the seals out to grease them, so I left them alone. One thing I'm going to need to do after I get the belt on is readjust these belt guards. I'm going to run the belt on quick and then I'll turn you guys back on and go from there. Okay, I got some tension on the clutch so I can check the gaps on all the belt guides, and all of those are nice and clear. No problems there. I'd adjust this one a little bit. This one was bent up and back. Straighten that one out a little bit. That all looks good. I just adjusted the steering. Now as for steering, see if I can get you guys a good angle or not. Right here. You want this edge right here parallel with this edge. Okay, same thing with this. Up here, you want this edge here parallel with this edge here. You can count your teeth and center up your steering gear right in the center of the quadrant gear, for lack of a better term. I'm pretty sure it's a quadrant gear, but anyway, you want this centered, and then you can use the frame and the tread as reference to get them the same adjustment for left and right. Get both wheels straight. That'll get you in the ballpark good enough for a garden tractor. So that's all straightened out. Trying to think if there's anything else I need to do under here. I'm going to grease it while I'm down here. So everything under here should be good. I will have to show you how to adjust the brake and the drive belt up on top. So yeah, get that straight, and then measure the same distance on the tread front and back. Try not to get mixed up in between the bars. Nothing too difficult. One side of these is going to be reverse thread and one side isn't, so try not to force it one direction. If it moves a little bit and gets tight, then go the other direction. That's all. You got to keep in mind when you're doing those, and you can just spin it by hand usually. If these have any excessive amounts of play, you can get those from Sears Parts Direct online. Didn't get rid of all the play in the axle, but at least I got rid of that flopping front and backwards anyway. Should be good enough. It's going to be better than what it was anyway. So I'm going to continue on lubricating all the grease fittings. There's one on the wheel, one on the axle, and then one for the steering here. At least on this tractor. I don't see this on all of them. I think this was added after the fact. So we're getting there. Now is also a good time if you're under here to check the brake band, which is in the back on this side. This one's in good shape. I don't think this tractor has a lot of hours on it. Enough to ruin a set of tires, that's about it. Even the hood's not all banged up or anything. I don't know what happened to the fender pans. That's not the original pan on that tractor. That's the wrong color. That's like what is on that tractor. Different color. So I'm going to continue on. Okay, this is the access hole or panel to get at the adjustments for the brake rod and the deck leveling. One thing I like to do is just grab a 9/16 wrench, which is a must-have when you're working on these tractors. Matter of fact, most of everything I've done is with the deep 9/16 with a socket wrench and a 9/16 open-end wrench. Very simple to work on these things. And not sure whether you're going to see it, but there's a jam nut back in here. You're going to need to loosen up. We're going to start with the brakes first, then we'll adjust the drive belt. And sometimes you can reach in through the front here and loosen that nut. And I like to do this before I put the deck on so I can get myself a pair of vice grips. And I can reach underneath the tractor to the rod right here and I can spin that from underneath, which is a lot easier. So it's just going to go in a few turns. Let me get on the tractor and we'll see how the park brake lock is holding on this. Okay, before the park brake was almost going all the way down, I had to push really hard to get it to that last little click, but one click from the bottom is plenty tight enough to keep this from rocking. Even if I had it back to the third, it's not rolling around at all, it's staying good. So we got some extra movement there. We have one click, it's not moving, an extra click to make it harder, another click to make it harder. So yeah, that's good. That's a matter of preference, how much brake you want on it. I think I can go a little bit tighter on that. I think I'm going to turn it one more turn, so I get about 4 clicks on the park brake. Between like a low, medium, and high is where I'm at now. I want a 4th one, so I have some room for any kind of brake wear. Once you get that set, you can tighten down that jam nut in there. Kind of hard to do this. Get it on camera. Can't see in there very well with my arm in the way. Anyway, you get the idea. Okay, let's see what we get. That's tight. 1, 2, 3. I guess that's all we're gonna get. Oh, that's actually I think all there is there. Maybe 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'll live with that. I mean, that takes quite a bit of force to get to that first click, so I'm gonna call that good. It's not moving anywhere. Now to get the deck back underneath it, or no, I got the drive clutch. I still gotta adjust the drive clutch on this thing. I'm gonna need to get it running in order to do that. What we're gonna want is to start the engine up and set the park brake on and make sure the belt doesn't keep spinning on it. So we're gonna have to tighten that belt up a little bit. I'm gonna have to do loosen this nut and see which way that it wants to move with the belt tension on it, and go from there. So hang on as I check that out. I haven't had to adjust one of these before, so I gotta figure out which way is loose and which one's tight. So hang on. Okay, attempt number 2. Brake on. Start, see if I can get both of these off. That should be good. So it just barely disengages with the park brake on its lowest setting. And I only have to let the clutch off a little bit. Brake, no brake. So that brake should start grabbing as soon as that belt is loose on it. So that should be good there. Let's get the deck back under it. Sorry, not sure if you guys can hear me too good when that's running. But anyway, the belt just starts spinning as I just barely let off the clutch. The belt with no load is going to spin pretty easily versus when you have it in gear. So it's going to have some travel in it, but as long as it's not freewheeling when the brake is on, it should be good. So I'm going to get the deck back under it and we'll go from there. I gotta adjust the throttle a little bit too, and I gotta fix the carburetor on it after that. So continuing on. Okay, I got the deck back on. Just in reverse order. You gotta put that bracket on the front, then you put those 2 hooks in, then you can put the 2 rear hooks in, and then you can pull it back up. Anyway, this is a tool I recommend getting. These are awesome. That's the part number, name brand, and it's for checking your blade height. Which on this one on this side is just under 2¼ inches. 2½ inches. We'll call it 2½. I also adjusted the tire pressure. I got 5 psi in the back and 12 in the front, by the way. You can run them as low as 4 psi in the back, and there's tubes all the way around, which is another thing I would recommend. Having tubes in your tires makes it a lot nicer because then you don't get any small leaks. It looks like we got about 2½ over here as well. Yep, close enough for me. 2½. Now, I didn't have to adjust this left and right, but if you have a difference left and right, which you have to adjust first before you adjust the front, is this rod goes to the bracket that lifts and lowers this side. So if you thread this nut down clockwise, it'll raise this side up. And if you unthread it counterclockwise, it'll drop this side down. So once you adjust it left and right, I can then adjust the front. It's a similar process adjusting the front, only you have to adjust these nuts the same amount of turns left and right. So you gotta count these nut threads, how many times you turn it. So if it's like a 1/12 of a turn or a 1/6 of a turn, you gotta count that as you're going for that front bracket. And you want to make sure you have tension. If they're loose, before you tighten down this jam nut, this is the nut that pulls back in the deck over here. But before you tighten this jam nut, make sure both of those brackets supporting the deck are tight. Because if one is loose, that bracket will flop up and down a little bit. I'm not going to show you that on camera because that's a little bit tedious and hard to record, but those are your tips for adjusting that. Okay, I'm going to continue on and finish adjusting everything and put this back on. I like to grab that with between 2 fingers, put that in there, and you can bend that in half while you get the other hook in. Get that in. And little by little I'm getting there. It's coming together. Okay, sorry to cut you guys short, but I'm in a bit of a hurry because I gotta get this stuff done today. But anyway, the carburetor, these are some of the easiest carburetors to work on. Hard part is getting the gaskets, which I had to kind of make a gasket work. I thought it was going to be a torn gasket in the carburetor because it was flooding when it was at any kind of an angle, like going onto trailers or on a hill. Turns out the needle had the float needle was bad on it, so I just had to change that, put a gasket on it. The deck is all leveled out. It's maybe 1/4 inch lower in the front, which is good enough. I just test ran the engine and that's all good. I topped off the engine oil with AMSOIL small engine oil. I shortened up the choke cable. Again, very simple. You can find that online, and I just use a pair of channel locks and pliers to make a Z-bend. It's not too difficult, but you can look that kind of stuff online. That's not too difficult. Easy peasy stuff. So, clutch is adjusted, brakes are adjusted, the steering is adjusted, and the deck is adjusted, and everything's all good. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm hoping I have everything covered pretty good. I'm going to take this thing out for a test run. Make sure it's going to cut grass good. I got to turn the RPMs down a little bit. There's a spring up there I got to turn down. I'm going to put you guys on a tripod while I test run this. Oh, there you have it. 1987 Craftsman up and running once again. Forgot to mention that bolt adjustment down here for the clutch, this way is tight, this way is loose, just so you know. So if you let it off this way, the clutch belt will be tight sooner on the stroke of the pedal. Yeah, she runs really good. Still have a little more tweaking to do in the steering. It's not turning as far to the right as it does to the left. So I'm going to mark the tie rod bars with a line and then turn one or the other, whichever way, a few turns to get that over to the right a little bit more. But runs good. Cuts nice too. It's all level. The deck is a little loud, but they're greaseless spindles. Not much you can do about that, but it's cutting nice. I can't see anything wrong with the cut quality whatsoever. You're going to see some striping because of the discharge on one side or the other as I was going back and forth, but it works really nice. No problems whatsoever. So if you like the video, make sure you give me a thumbs up, and as always, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.